Crypto's had a pretty nice pump recently. You've probably noticed sentiment improved rapidly, although a lot of people are still feeling pretty bearish. Bitcoin could reclaim six-figure price tag at any moment now. But if we're really so back again, then the big question is, how long does it last? When will the market peak? There may be infinite possibilities, but can we get a good handle on some strong scenarios here? So let's dive into how the market will unfold from here. This is, of course, bullish propaganda. Obviously, there's recession fears and trade tariff fears and all that bullshit. This is bullish propaganda. Deal with it. Starting with when to look at a next local top. Markets are seasonal, and low volume summer lull is a very likely thing. It happens half the time. So if bullish momentum continues, then we can expect an ongoing rally through to a local crypto top, maybe in June or July. Global M2 would point in that direction. Sure, the traditional financial adage is if you're trading stocks, sell in May and go away with, but Bitcoin breaking out of a month-long downtrend, rallying with some decent momentum so far, further continuation beyond the end of May could be plausible for crypto. We even had the 50-day crossing over the 200-day moving average in the second half of April. Over on the 4-hour chart, a bullish cross. RSI in the daily looking elevated, and a look at average monthly BTC returns through the years showed June actually to be almost flat, while July tends to deliver medium returns around 8.9%. We've also seen recently anyway, Bitcoin ETF inflows surging, billions of dollars in the last few weeks flowing in, absolutely bonkers. But the limited historical data is a pretty mixed one on this. There are certainly times when big inflows have preceded a local top. This happened in March and in June of 2024 when inflows and price gains were followed by a big reversal. But then on the other hand, later that year in November, there were huge ETF inflows and Bitcoin just kept climbing as Wall Street kept accumulating, topping over $100,000 and eventually hitting a new all-time high on December 18th. With a further high in January. Also, there's an area of high liquidity just above the 100K level on the CoinGlass liquidation heat map, and $100,000, of course, a very key psychological level. In fact, it's maybe the most significant BTC price level that it's ever traded at up until now. That means there's a pretty decent likelihood that Bitcoin moves up to grab that liquidity and then has a decent reversal, which also adds the possibility of a local top at 100K with six figures acting as this kind of resistance level that needs to be flipped for eventual further upside price action. Doesn't sound wildly bullish to me. Maybe we can bump a little bit higher. Some people might say the rally's already over. We're just going to go down from here. It's all over. Recession fears too high, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of psychology, let's not forget about the power of FOMO. For both the good and the bad, the crypto fear and greed index is now neutral after having been rock bottom earlier this year, but spiked up to 72 in April. And any return to FOMO-fueled aping in might also suggest short-term positive price action before it retests lower. So this would all indicate, of course, that we might be in for a local top before a quiet summer. But keep in mind that if you don't think the bull market can extend much longer, then this local top could actually turn out to be the full cycle top before we kick into some kind of bear market territory. Wouldn't be shocked to see it, not my base case, but you got to be open to all possibilities of the market. However, that would break, of course, from the previous 4-year cycles according to established trends. Q4 should, in theory, be bullish. But before we get into the next point here, guys, if you ever want to trade crypto without all the BS, okay? You don't want to do the KYC, you don't want to use the VPN, you don't want to have the hassle of, not being able to access exchanges and trade and leverage and that stuff. Well, that's exactly why I use Femex, the OG crypto exchange built for traders who just want to trade. It's available to anyone, anywhere. You get $10 for free just for coming over, trying out the exchange. First trade's free. Up to $500 in deposit bonus. Deposit $2,500, you have $500 back, and up to $1,200 in trading bonus. That's all exclusive of my link. The no KYC, the sweet bonuses, all that stuff. Look, I've been using Femex for years. It's smooth, it's fast, great liquidity in all the big pairs. The list coins quickly. And if you're tired of jumping through the hoops just to open up an account, this could be your sign. Click the link, get your bonuses, start trading on your terms. Do it now. Go check it out. So this is pretty clear from the charts here. So the bull market peak in 2017, Q4 December, 4 years later, bull market peak 2021, Q4 November, right? Bull market peaks 4 years later, well, that would be Q4 2025. Is that too simple? Sure, arguably, and we can't automatically expect the 4-year cycle to last forever, and there's a lot of evidence that it may already be waning, that idea. But don't forget that right now, this current cycle actually is playing out more or less as it in theory should be, with 2023 bringing early recovery, 2024 the beginning of real bullish action. Here we are in 2025. We've had a new all-time high followed by the exact kind of pullback and buying opportunities that have occurred so many times before markets.
But Lark, didn't you see all the macro stuff? You just made a video on the container shipping crisis and recession fears.
I know. I understand. So if we then get a quiet summer and a final blow-off top in Q4, then the attendant short-lived craziness that we all know and love, well, that'd be great. Then what would be a pretty solid cycle overall, to be honest, and wouldn't really destroy any of the existing models. Here's another thought, though. We're just discussing theories here, guys. My base case has kind of been 250K BTC sometime between Q4 and Q1, Q2, 26. But anyway, local top before summer lull actually turns into a cycle top, or alternatively, we could get a pico top in Q4, kind of what we should get according to the cycles. But also, the other possibility here is a longer extended cycle, okay? It's kind of that bull market top 2026 deal I was just talking about. Wouldn't be surprised. First of all, it's clear that Bitcoin is entering a new phase that's very different from its earlier phases in its existence. Institutions have been crazy. Look at all the ETF inflows. Look at all the companies buying. And this evolution doesn't necessarily tie in with the 4-year cycle based around the halving events and all that kind of stuff. The 4-year cycle could well and truly be dead. But the bears are saying it's dead to the downside, and 109K was the top. I'm saying it's dead to the upside, and 250K is the top in Q1, Q2, 2026. Screw you, bears. You're dirty. Anyway, in the US, we've got new crypto legislation incoming soon. Trump's crypto advisor, Bo Hines, head of the Presidential Council of the Advisors for Digital Assets. He stated at the end of April that 2 major crypto bills could be passed as soon as by August. Well, a new discussion draft of the market structure bill looks pretty positive. So these regulatory developments actually represent long-term shifts in the landscape that go way beyond all this short-term price action pump nonsense, and which could actually put in place the conditions for much more sustained long-term growth for the entire industry. The regulatory clarity everyone's been asking for years is finally here, and maybe no one's bullish enough on the ETF liquidity, the institutional money, the government money, the regulatory clarity. All this stuff's going to send us on the golden bull run that lasts for even longer than 2026. Plus, we've got global M2 expanding, which is largely predicted to expand into 2026. And if that increase in the money supply does extend into 2026, as some analysts think, then crypto has every reason to follow along with it, with Bitcoin appearing to track M2 relatively closely as it soaks up liquidity in risk-on environments, assuming that we don't have a new Great Depression in the next few weeks. On top of that, there's BTC's movement with the US business cycle, which is still in expansion right now. In fact, business cycle's a hell of a lot closer to the bottom than the top, right? All again optimal for crypto. Although keep in mind that we are in a volatile and unpredictable time that can flip very quickly. Very, very much, waiting for Donald Trump to tweet something to either pump or dump the markets. Finally, though, there's another major catalyst, this time back in the realm of politics, of course, which is obviously that the midterm elections are going to be taking place in the USA in Q4 of 2026. Fascinating. Obviously, the Trump administration will want to have markets be okay, the economy be okay. If he starts a mega recession, nukes markets, nukes the economy, the Republicans are going to get absolutely hosed down at the next midterms. In fact, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's already talked about short-term pain for long-term gain on the subject of tariffs. And you can expect that if markets are bullish, and if investors are getting rich and people are feeling good and the economy's booming and all that stuff, then Trump will waste no time in claiming the credit and in declaring that he has fixed the damage that was done by the previous administration. But if we are in a recession and markets are effed in mid-2026, you can't blame that on Biden anymore, dog. That's all you. Anyway, in that case, regardless of whether or not you agree with the president, traders want to be positioned ahead of time for, hopefully, market conditions be good during that time. Look, crypto can seriously consider here, I think, a late peak to the cycle. I think it's a very real possibility and one that shouldn't be totally thrown out. I don't think 109K was the top for the cycle. Could we have some more bullshit to absorb between now and then? Yeah, but there's a lot of reasons why this year could be very good for crypto, and next year might surprise a lot of people. Thanks for watching.